We welcome all of you, inshallah, to our lecture today. This Friday, the second Friday of Ramadan. أسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يتقبل منا إن شاء الله أعمالنا. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He will accept all of our good deeds and have this second Friday, inshallah, better than the first Friday that we had in Ramadan. Today's topic that I want to address is something that there's a misconception with many Muslims, which is al-ibadat, the rituals that we do, as-salah, as-siyam, as-zakah, al-hajj. All of these rituals that we do, they're arkan al-Islam. They're pillars of Islam. In the hadith of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam that we all know, بني الإسلام على خمس. شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله وأني رسول الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة وصوم رمضان وحج البيت لمن استطاع إليه سبيلا. So all of these are pillars, and they're very important. And without them, especially salah, a person might not be considered even a Muslim. Without them, there is a legitimate problem with a person's faith. So, I'm not going to downgrade what these pillars are to us. They are more important than anything that we have in our faith. They define who we are. They make us who we are Islamically. And because of that, no Muslim really is considered a Muslim unless they fulfill these pillars. But the thing that's a misconception that I feel like many Muslims today fall into is not understanding. We see these as objectives. Many Muslims look at these rituals as objectives. Like, this is it. If you pray, then you're good. If you fast, then you're good. If you do hajj, then you're good. If you do your siyam, then you're good. So they assume that by fulfilling these pillars that you are good. So they made these pillars to be the objective, the end game of who they are. For example, if you're traveling, let's say you're traveling to Texas. Texas is your end game. But there are a lot of other places that you will stop for gas, you'll stop for hotel, you'll stop for food, you'll stop for various reasons. Those stops are not the end game. Those stops are means to help you get to the end game, get you to the target, get you to where you want to be at. You see what I'm saying? These pillars of Islam, an exception of La ilaha illallah, these tenets are means to an end. They are not the objective. One of the reasons why these tenets have not changed who we are, have not made us better, is because we made them into the objective. They're our goal. So we get happy, we get satisfied because we did our 5 salats. We get satisfied and content because we fasted Ramadan. And likewise, we get satisfied because I took out my zakah or I went for hajj. But that's not the issue. That's not the target. Each pillar of these pillars were meant to be done to achieve something else. To achieve something else. So these pillars are means, are ingredients to achieve something else. So for example, look at the salah. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, "Man lam tanhahu salatuhu an al-fahsha'i wal-munkar, fala salata lah." Whoever his salah does not discourage him or keep him away from al-fahsha'i wal-munkar, immoral acts and wrongdoings, then he has not prayed. There's no prayer for him. Means all of those motions and the times of the salat that you concentrated in following and the motions that you paid attention to follow are meaningless because the prayer, what's it meant for, did not happen. And since it didn't happen, that means really you were not into your prayers. There was something missing. Whether it was the intention, because like I said, you thought that to be your objective, or whether it is your mind was not into it, your heart was not into it. That's why our scholars have said, al-khushu' is a pillar of salah. Rukn arkan salah, al-khushu' means that your mind is alert, is present in your prayers. You're not distracted. You're fully invested in your prayers. And if you're fully invested and your heart is alert and present, then the prayer will have its divine impact into you. You'll see the effect to where you'll find yourself incapable of engaging in wrongdoings and immoral acts. Incapable, because it will work as a shield to stand between you and those things that are wrong. Even if at a moment of weakness you're tempted to go that way, your prayer will jump in and act like that shield and says, no, you're not. You know, one of the Sahaba, there's a story that one of the Sahaba was walking one time in the streets of Medina, and he noticed a beautiful woman. So he followed her until he got to her door. And when he got to her door, he remembered. And he fell unconscious. He couldn't go through it. صابهم طائف من الشيطان تذكروا سورة الأعراف فإذا هم مبصرون. And when the shaitan touches them at a moment of weakness, they remember and they can see clearly. Because at that time of weakness, they're blinded, whether they're blinded because of their desire or they're blinded because the shaitan was trying to mislead them. But soon enough, they remembered. فَإِذَا هُمْ مُبْصِرُونَ. We all know the story of those three that were stuck in the cave. One of them, he desired his cousin. And he was able to get her to a situation where there was nothing that could prevent him from fulfilling his desire. And she just says, ittaqillah, ittaqillah. And do not open the door without the appropriate key. He got up and left. It was his salah, his good deeds that worked as a shield. We could say the same thing for Siyam. Siyam is not just about depriving yourself from food and water and your sexual desires. That's not the objective. Rasul says, there are people, the only share they get from their salah is thirst and hunger. Thirst and hunger. Hey, that means they did fast. They did wake up in the morning, ate suhoor, and did not eat throughout the whole day or drink until Maghrib. They were doing the motions. They were going through the process. But the only thing that they generated from that and gained from that is thirst and hunger. Why? Because as-sawmu junnah. As-sawm junnah. What does that mean? Fasting is a shield. It's a cover. It's a protective shield. That means when you're tempted to do wrong, your Siyam jumps in, reminds you that's not you, prevents you from actually engaging in that kind of action, and does not allow you to get into it, does not allow you. How many of us can recall that their prayer, their fasting, was something that came in at the appropriate time and stopped them from something they could have regretted. If we do these emotions, if we do these tenets, if we pray and we have that on our conscience, that these are means to an end, not the objective, that they are shields for good deeds. فمن فرض فيهن الحج فلا رفث ولا فسوق ولا جدال في الحج. Even in Hajj, you go to Hajj, you're told that there are things that normal human being might engage into at a moment of weakness. During Hajj, you're not allowed to. If Hajj is unable to take that away from you, then you really only visited Mecca and Medina, and you came back with nothing. And that's why, a lot of people I've seen over the years of me going to Hajj. I've been doing Hajj for almost 35 years. And every time I see people, they go to Hajj, they come back just the way they went. Reason is because they thought that the journey to go to Hajj is the objective. They couldn't understand that Hajj was a wasila. Wasila. It's a tool that is used to better the person who you are, to make you a better person. And these tenets, they make you a better person from the perspective of humanity as well as religiously. As well as religiously. Even this whole deen, this whole Islam that we have embraced, that we love and we identify ourselves with, its job is to make us better people and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah ta'ala did not intend this faith to be the objective. ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب. In Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah Ta'ala says, ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق أو المغرب. And to accomplish the perfection of good is not what direction you take of east or west for salah. It's what this salah does, what this Islam does. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam summarized it in such a beautiful way. He said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. The reason why I was sent is to perfect the best of character. مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. Even Yawm al-Qiyamah, when we come Yawm al-Qiyamah and we want to get closer to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we want to find our forgiveness. He said, وَإِنَّ أَقْرَبَكُم مِّنِّي مَنْزِلًا يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أَحَاسِنُكُمْ أَخْلَاقًا وَإِنَّ أَبْعَدَكُم مِّنِّي مَنْزِلًا يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ الثَّرْثَارُونَ وَالْمُتَشَدِّقُونَ وَالْمُتَفَيْهِقُونَ. Beautiful hadith. The most closest amongst all of you to me on the day of judgment are the best of you in their character. So if your character is good, if you have a good personality that came out of this faith, that was a production of all your good deeds, then you're the closest to the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the day of judgment, and that is a means to the forgiveness. But the people that are the most distant, listen to what he said, الترتارون, people that talk a lot, talk nonsense, want to make themselves be heard, be noticed. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Hadith Abu Hurairah, he said we can count how many words the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam speaks a day. Can you imagine that? They were able to count the number of phrases and words that the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam will speak out of his mouth per day. And when he speaks, it's wahi. He's the most articulate individual ever and the most beloved, but still he did not blabber left and right. At-tartarun, people that talk a lot, that like to be noticed, that like to be heard. They like to be identified. They like the celebrity status of themselves. They get internal boost by people complimenting them and praising them and giving them titles and accolades. Those things that boost their ego. Rasul one day comes to his companions and they all stood up for him. And he said, sit down, do not stand up for me. And do not praise me as a Christian has praised Isa ibn Maryam. إِنَّمَا أَنَا عَبْدٌ فَقُولُوا عَبْدُ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولُهُ. I'm only a servant, they say, Abdullah wa Rasul, the servant of Allah and his messenger. Very simple. He would go in and sit wherever the place is empty at the end. He refused to accept someone's seat because he got up to give him room. In today's world, it's not even about the athletes or actors or all of those politicians and stuff that are seeking fame. We live in a time where even dua, ulama, get offended if they are not recognized, identified, if they're not mentioned by their titles and accolades. You find their face enlightened. And then they're able to talk more, articulate more. You give them a microphone, they'll keep it for hours because they can see in the eyes of people how they admire them, the admiration of people for them. It brings them energy, it brings them motivation. It's not the salah that did, it's not the siyam that did, it's not the zakah that gave them that. Those things were just hitchhiking along the way. They took their salah and siyam and the rest of the things just to travel during that journey, not necessarily. That's the energy in the engine that they run by. They run by the accolades and they changed it. They bought the dunya to sell the akhirah. الثرثارون والمتشدقون. Mutashaddiq means the person that talks at the tip of his tongue, like with his chest up, his head is high. He feels like no one is at his level. And then he'll speak nonsense, mutashaddiq, nonsense. He'll make up stuff on the way. He'll never say, I don't know. So al-mutashaddiq is one that will create stories, words, create things for people to applaud him. وَالْمُتَفَيْهِقُ. Al-mutafayhiq is the one that claims fiqh, claims understanding, claims knowledge. Mutafayhiq. He stands and presents himself as an alim, as an intellectual, an educator. These attributes violates the integrity of a salah, which a salah promotes humility, tawadu, promotes being approachable, equal to all. You know, Abu Dharr got upset one day at Bilal. And Abu Dharr is from a high caliber family. So he said to Bilal, who was from Al-Habasha, was a slave, he said, Yabna Sawda. Rasul was furious. He turned and he said, Innaka mru'un fika jahiliyyah. You're a man of ignorance. Abu Dharr understood the enormity of his mistake because he was a man of salah, integrity. He puts his cheek on the ground. He said, Wallahi, I will not lift my cheek until Bilal stomped on the other side. To remind himself that that ego at that moment was not him. Moment of weakness, then he remembered. He reverted himself back to the reality of that a Muslim, hayyinun layyin, hayyinun layyin, easygoing, approachable. People relate to him. Rasul said in the hadith, من لم يألف المؤمن من يألف ويألفه الناس. المؤمن من يألف ويألفه الناس. وفي رواية لا خير في من لا يألف ولا يؤلف. لا خير في من لا يألف ولا يؤلف. الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم said the true believer is someone that can relate to people in humbleness and humility and down to earth. And people can relate to him or her. They find themselves being able to relate to this individual. The other hadith I mentioned, Rasul said there's no good in a person who does not relate to people and people can relate to him. How can people relate to you if they can't even reach up to you? You know, in the Quran al-Kareem, he describes this as al-kibr, arrogance. And he described these folks that live in their la-la land, in their accolades and titles and celebrity status, as people on top of a mountain. He sees people small, but they also see him small too. And if he's walking or she's walking with such arrogance, he says, إِنَّكَ لَن تَخْرِقَ الْأَرْضِ وَلَن تَبْلُغَ الْجِبَالَ طُولًا وَلَا تَمْشِي فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا إِنَّكَ لَن تَخْرِقَ الْأَرْضِ وَلَن تَبْلُغَ الْجِبَالَ طُولًا. They do not walk on earth with such arrogance, because Allah Ta'ala says, your feet will not dig into earth, holes, and neither your neck and chin will not go as high as a mountain. You want to know if your prayers are effective, or anyone else for that matter? You want to know if their fasting is effective? See their character. A person is judged by his character, not by how much salah he prayed. We all know hadith of the woman that the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he heard the Sahaba speak about her, that she was sawamatan qawwama, a woman that used to fast a lot and pray at night extensively. But then they said, لكنها كانت تؤذي جيرانها. But she used to trouble her neighbors. That extensive salah at night, that many days of fasting, what was the result? Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says she's in hell. She's in hell. Can you imagine? All that accumulation of salah and siyam did not equate for her salvation, since she's a troublesome person for her neighbors. The reason why, if you get to the details, is because she was really never praying. Neither was she fasting truly. She was doing those things فيما يبدو للناس, كما في الحديث فيما يبدو للناس, what seems to people. She was showing off with all those fasting and night prayers and stuff, but the reality is none of them were real, because they didn't change who she was. They didn't change her character. They didn't change her demeanor, her manners, her love for her neighbors. لا ينظر الله إلى من لم يأمن جاره بوائقه. Allah Ta'ala will not look at a person when your neighbor doesn't feel safe from you. Look at how the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to react towards these things. A man comes to him, he said, Ya Rasulullah, I have so-and-so kids. I want you to witness that I want to give one of my kids this gift. He said, did you give the same gift to all the other kids of yours? He said, no. He said, then do not ask me to witness over dhulm, injustice. His faith kicked in, reminded him that he should not be involved in issues that are unjust, even if it's just family matters. أتشهدني على زور? Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Al-Muslim ليس بالسباب ولا الشتام. True believers are those who do not cuss or curse. Why? Because it's not just a claim I'm a Muslim. It's that these rituals that we do, they reform us. And if they have not reformed us, then really they don't exist in our lives. They're a waste of time. They're a waste of time. Even in sadaqah, if someone comes and asks you for sadaqah, your character comes in. I don't have anything to give him. Qawlun ma'ruf. I give him a good word. I don't return and say, what is this? Why do people keep begging? Why can't they find a job? A person that speaks like that speaks volumes of who he is. And that miskeen can do better without the help of this individual. Look at this. There was a guest that came to Medina to the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, but the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam didn't have anything at home for that guest. And one of the Sahaba noticed that. He said, Ya Rasulullah, can your guest be my guest? So Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, yes. He takes him home. He himself doesn't have sufficient enough food for him and his children. So he tells his wife, هذا ضيف رسول الله. That's the guest of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, not any guest. So when you bring in the food, turn the candles off and let the guest eat while we pretend eating with him. So they were there in the darkness pretending to eat, and they're hungry for the guests of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to eat. Their iman made them do that. The Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam the next day says, Inna Allah ajiba min sani'ika wa sani'i ahlik. Allah Ta'ala himself was amazed by what they did. Our problem is not that we miss our prayers. Yes, there's about 90% of the Muslims don't pray today. That's a shocking percentage. There was a study that was done that only 10% of the people go to the masjid. So to correct that percentage, about 70% of the people don't pray. 30% do, 10% go to the masjid. Problem is not even that percentage. There's always going to be a smaller number who practice their faith. But within those 10%, how many of them actually pray to get better? Not because they're told to pray, they were ordered to pray. Allah Ta'ala says, Aqim as-salah. Iqamatu salah means that you perfect it. Not you do it. You perfect it. So you can see the nur. Ya akhi, subhanallah. It's amazing that people would recognize a person by the enlightenment of their face. When Mus'ab ibn Umair was in the city of Medina, ambassador of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the people of Medina were not happy. So they sent their two best men, the leaders of the tribes of Al-Aws wal-Khazraj, Sa'ad ibn Ubadah and Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh. They came with their weapons. Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh comes with his weapons, his spear, and he digs it into the ground and tells Mus'ab ibn Umair, we do not wish you to be here. Mus'ab said, I saw in his face anger and intent of harm. So he told him, why don't you sit and listen if you wish? And if you do not like what you hear, I would leave. He sits and listens. All of a sudden, his face changed. It's like there's light coming out of it. When he returned to his people, they noticed that. They didn't even know what happened to him, but they noticed in his face is different. Whoa, what's up with him? There's joy, there's brightness. Same thing with Sa'ad ibn Ubadah. يسعى نورهم بين أيديهم وبإيمانهم يسعى. The nur itself becomes motion. It's a movement. It surrounds them. It's energy. Energy that goes around a Muslim to where everyone around him can sense that power, that energy. Nura mubina. The deen becomes like a light that you get to see. You get to see through the darkness of the world. You get to see through the darkness of your desires. You get to see through the darkness of your temptations. It's not going to take over you. It's that light that goes right through it. And everyone that sees you can sense that. They can sense it. Just like people that used to come to the city of Medina, they can sense the aura of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That was the result of his ibadats. His ibadats were not the objective. His ibadats were means to an end. If they were the objective, Aisha told him, Ya Rasulullah, hawwin alayk, faqad ghafara Allahu laka ma taqaddama min dhanbik wa ma ta'akhkhar. Allah Ta'ala has forgiven you all of your sins. He said, Afala akunu abdan shakura. These are just means. Shouldn't I be a grateful servant? This is my way to show my gratitude. This is my way to show my gratitude. Even though I don't need these salats for the forgiveness and siyams for the forgiveness, we need them for that. But for him, he said, well, these are means for me to show my gratitude. Brothers and sisters, to come to an end. Remember that your ibadats are means to an end. They're supposed to make you better. And if you feel that your life has not changed because of them, then go back and see what wrong that you're doing with them. You cannot feel satisfied because you have done them. The only way for you to be satisfied is for them, for these rituals, to come alive within you in the way you speak, the way your gaze, what you hear, how you deal with people, how people trust in you, feel safe around you, and want to follow you because of your character, not because of your celebrity or accolades. أسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يبارك لي وإياكم إن شاء الله ويجعل هذا اليوم يوم خير لنا جميعا. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.